So happy that you joined us today for our panel discussion with the original Pinettes. This is such an honor to have them here from New Orleans, Louisiana. So I feel like we should be starting with some applause for our guest artists. All right, to kick things off, we're going to start with some quick introductions. So my name's Tammy Walker, and I have the honor of being the director of the School of Music here at the University of Iowa. I'm going to pass the mic down the row.
Hello, I'm Jazz Henry. I'm the trumpet player.
Hi, I'm Justina Sylvester. I play bass drum.
We must have a drummer in the house. She was really excited about that. My name is Natasha Harrison. I'm a saxophonist.
My name is Christy Jordan. I'm the percussionist.
My name is Veronique Dorsey. I'm a trumpet player.
Good afternoon. I'm Deon Harrison, trombonist.
How y'all doing? I'm Damaris Holmes. I'm the sousaphone / tuba player.
Carice Williams, trumpet player.
Okay, wonderful. I want to thank the Summer of the Arts for making it possible that this group is here in Iowa City today. So just amazing. So shout out to Summer of the Arts. And please don't miss their show tonight, 8 p.m. main stage downtown. You can't miss it, right? It's just right there. Don't miss it. That's right. So just a little bit of history about this group. They were formed in 1991 by Jeffrey Herbert, who was the band director at St. Mary's Academy High School, a historically black all-girl Catholic school. The name, Original Pinettes, does anyone know where that comes from? Maybe I'll ask that first. Okay, I didn't either, but I did a little bit of homework. So it comes from Mr. Herbert's own band, which was the original Pinstripe brass band. So the name came from him. So they have been in existence for 34 years. Not all original members. I feel I should point that out. Right there. Any other original members? Just one. Okay, another round of applause. That's amazing. Carrying a sousaphone that long, so that's amazing. All right, well, they've had some unbelievable performances. You can read more about them online, just the full list of what they have done, but a couple highlights. Some of the major venues and festivals they've played at include Bullitt Sports Bar, Preservation Hall, the Jazz and Heritage Festival, the Satchmo Festival, the Essence Music Festival, the French Quarter Festival. They've also traveled overseas. They've played in Switzerland and in Turkey. Most recently, they performed at the Super Bowl. You may have heard of that in New Orleans, pre-game there. And they gained a lot of respect when they were crowned the winners of the 2013 Red Bull Street Kings Brass Band Blowout Competition when they beat 3 other male brass bands, which then changed the name to the Red Bull Street Queens. So. They've also played with Arcade Fire and Katy Perry. I think I read that was at the Met Gala. Was that correct? So, yeah.
At the after party.
After party. So, yeah. So that's, something the rest of us in this room have done as well, I'm sure. The Katy Perry after party at the Met Gala. So, yeah, just amazing. There's so many things we could talk about here. So I'm going to start off by just asking the group some general questions, and then we would love to have time for Q&A. We do have a microphone that our amazing marketing manager, Jen Knights, is going to run around when we get to that point. So please be thinking about what questions you have as we keep talking today too. So for those that may not know, question number 1, what is a brass band?
Oh, I guess I'll take it. So a brass band, just as the name says, it's comprised of mostly brass instruments, but you would think of like a marching band. But in New Orleans, we break down a drum set. You have a snare drum and a bass drum with a cymbal on top. So that would be like your back row with a sousaphone. And then in the front row, in a traditional New Orleans brass band, you'll have trumpets, trombones, not a brass instrument, but saxophone. And that's like comprising like the traditional New Orleans brass band are what you see today.
And just to add some additional historical context. Is anybody familiar with the old military style bands from like the 1920s and 30s? Well, that was the origins of brass band. And so from those military style bands, when jazz was first started, they adapted that military style, and so that's how those formations came about with the marching military bands.
Okay, very interesting. Wonderful, A+. That's the first test question. That's wonderful. All right. I gave you a heads up about this, but I would love to next just go down the row with the microphone and hear a little bit about your personal journeys. What brought you to music? What brought you to this group? What's keeping you in this group? Anything you want to share, but just we want to get to know each of you a little bit, so when we see you tonight at 8 o'clock, we can feel like we're friends.
I'll try to make it short. I started out at St. Mary's Academy, and when the band was formed, I was actually there. I just declined my original position because that's just something that I just didn't want to do. I just thought it was like, hey, I want a party that's going to stop me from hanging out in the streets. So I was like, no, I wasn't mature enough. So after fast forward, they called me back to be in the band, and I joined once I moved back home. And the band was different. You know, you talking about class members, now we little women. So everybody had their own lives, and then everybody was doing their own thing. So then Katrina hit, and then we branched off. We all broke up. So then I still wanted to do it. You know, I was just a member at the time, just showing up. You know, people were telling me what to do, show up where it is, do that. And then a lot of the original members decided not to come back. And when the ones that did come back, they didn't want to, like, it just wasn't a full-time passion for them. So the old member was like, why don't you try to run a band? So I became the leader then. And then after that, I moved back home and then got these lovely individuals right here sitting on my left and my right, and that's how this particular band was formed. But I've always had a passion for music. I've always watched MTV and thought I was in Prince band. I thought I was in Bon Jovi. I thought I was with the Go-Go's, the Bangles. You know, I always thought I was, you know, what I saw on TV. So I just decided to keep the music going within myself, and I played the drum, the congo, bongo, whatever it is. Sometimes I try to pick up a horn and do that, you know. So I don't know how to play the horn. I'm lying. So so I just started trying to write. I don't know where that passion came from to try to write music and, you know, make original tunes. But Natasha Harris, our MD, I think watching her just take cover songs and watch how she arranged them, I think that really motivated me to start doing original music. So this is why I am with, again, a totally awesome group of women. I always say we not blood related, we love related, because if you see this band, what you see up here is actually what you get. It's nothing phony for the cameras. We don't put on anything. We hang with each other. We stay by each other's houses. You know, we always make it a family deal. And we call Justine, we call her Jigger. You know, she's the newest member, and when she came to the first rehearsal, she said, y'all do all of this? Y'all eat, y'all cook, you drink, y'all. You know, she was like, dang, you know, it's like two different sets of people. You know, she met us on the stage, and then she got to see the more relaxed side, and just, it's like a switch, but she's getting it. But yeah, that's my role here is the percussionist. I play the snare drum on the stage, and I'm also the leader as well. So that's my job here.
All right, I will jump in. My journey to music, I had my maternal grandfather, he was a saxophone player. And so I was always around music. And then my paternal grandfather, he had, y'all know those old milk crates? I might be dating myself, but you know, we use milk crates. It wasn't for the actual milk delivery person come and bring the milk. You know, he just had these crates of records, actual records. And I mean, he had, what I later found out was a ping pong table. It was always covered, so I never knew what it was, but it was covered from all the way across with records, all the way at the bottom. And so he would sit me down. I must have been about 2 or 3. I have pictures where I just have these headphones on. And so I just always had a passion for music. And when I actually picked up the horn, I was like 10 years old in middle school. And I will say that I had the benefit of having some great mentorship, some great music programs that came out of the city of New Orleans. So not only do we have the marching band culture, we had a guy named Jonathan Bloom who did music in the schools. And so that was my introduction into playing like jazz and just like that whole improvised music. And of course, if you're from New Orleans, brass band is all around. You know, you can at any day, You know, they can have a random second line for whatever reason, whether it's a funeral, whether it's graduation, whatever the occasion. You know, you'll just have this random music in the street that's so much about the feeling of the city. You know, it's not written music. It can't relate to any other things. You know, if I have any classical musicians in here, you get a little bit of creative freedom in how you articulate the music, but for the most part, it's written. With brass band, it's so much different. And so I was always drawn to the freedom of being able to express myself through music. So that's why I always wanted to play brass band. So after I started playing the horn, I had this idea. I was like, I want to start an all-female brass band. And I remember telling someone this. I think I was in the 6th grade at that time. So it was like in the late 90s. And my uncle had daughters that cousins that went to St. Mary's. He was like, oh yeah, they already have an all-female brass band. And it was just like, he like popped my cell like, damn, I thought I was gonna be the first one. Oh, well, it's already. So, you know, fast forward, so I just let the idea go. I would just do like set band type things. And Katrina happened. I wound up finding this other band. It was a mixture of men and women. It was a very eclectic group of people, I'll say that, right? And they were like, we need a female musician to go out of town. Now, I had met these people like one time, and they were like, we're going to Finland. Do you have a passport? Like, I can get one. My mom's like, who are these people? Who are you just going to? I think I was like 20 at the time. I was like, I guess I'm just going to go. Like, you don't even know that. I just need all that information. So I called. So I had friends that went to St. Mary's. I'm looking for a tuba player. So call around, and that's how I found one of the members at the time. And so that's how I reconnected back to the Pinettes. And so they did not come on a trip. The tuba player declined to come, and probably walking into that situation, if she was anything like me, probably wouldn't have been going either. And maybe about two or 3 weeks later, I get a call like, hey, you know, we're calling. You know, we have some gigs coming up. Can you make rehearsal? And I go in, I was like, you know, it was like that full circle moment for me, because here it is, like, this was now 10 years later. I'm having the opportunity to play for a band I had heard about, 10 years prior, and now having the opportunity to walk and really get an opportunity to live what was my dream, is to be a part of an all-female brass band. And so that's what brought me here. And, I'm excited to be with this group of ladies. They really helped me bring out all of the crazy creative ideas I have. They helped me bring those to life, and so I appreciate them so much, because what you see is organic. And like I said before, brass band is so much of a feeling. What you hear is going to always be different. So the show that you see tonight is going to be unique to this area. The energy that we get from the crowd, that's something that we see may motivate us or inspire us to play a particular song. And so just know that your presence and your energy is a part of the show that we give you.
Well, how did I come to music? My mother is a gospel musician. She started gospel music in a Catholic church in New Orleans. So I grew up just listening to church music. I tell the story, like I don't think I listened to R&B music until I was like in elementary school. And the first song my mama heard me sing, she was like, how you know that? I said, uh-oh, I don't think I'm supposed to listen to that, but whatever. So I grew up on church music, and my first instrument would be drums. So I would like watch the church drummer and like try to study it, and I taught myself drums. And then when I got to elementary school, I started on clarinet, but I fell in love with the trumpet in middle school. I went to a middle school, had a really good marching program, so we traveled the country, marching band competitions, and I was like, I want to play trumpet. And my band director was like, well, I'm going to give you a trumpet and you figure it out. And that's what I did. I figured it out, and here I am 15 years later, still figuring it out. But I grew up in New Orleans, saw brass bands, but never saw females play brass band music. So I went through middle school, high school, playing the trumpet. And I never saw myself being in a brass band because I never saw girls do it. People will call me for gigs every now and then. I'm like, okay, but I'm just kind of like figuring this out. I never thought that I would be a part of a brass band. So my friend died, Brandon Franklin, and the one way I thought I could honor him was be a part of the second line. So I went to the second line. I'm playing. And I'm just like playing with the other people playing, and some Pinettes were there, and they were like, "Oh, it's a girl trumpet player." So they gave me a card, and I was like, "Me? Y'all want me? I don't think y'all want me. I don't feel ready for that." So I took it, and I don't know. I don't think I'm ready for that kind of life. So I did another gig at the airport, and they saw me again, and Christy sat me down. She was like, "Look, if you're serious about this, you're gonna come to practice Tuesday." I was like, okay, you won't get an opportunity twice. So I went to practice that was Tuesday, and that Thursday I was on a gig, and I haven't left since. And that's like, 15 years now. But I think as I'm growing in the band, I'm starting to do a lot of more like singing and leading, and I'm like, that's my lane. So I could do that. I was like, oh, y'all sing? Oh, yeah, I could do that. All right. So you'll see, like, again, the show is definitely organic. None of this is practiced. But the person that I am, like, on stage, I'm usually, like, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Extroverted. And in life, I'm not that extroverted. So it definitely, like, brings a different side out of me being a part of the band. I love it.
Okay, so I guess I'm next. Let's see. I would consider myself the baby of the group, not as far as age-wise, but the newest person. My journey through music, I started playing drums at church when I was like 9 or 10. I played snare, marching in high school. I never thought about playing brass band music though. I was always the person that was dancing to the music. I also am a part of a band in Dallas, which started in 2013, which again somebody called me out the blue. Never thought about doing it, but I just started doing it. Let's see, January, if I want to say, I received a text message to ask me if I was free. They had some gigs lined up. I've always wanted to play. I've been seeing them play for a couple of years. So that was the opportunity for me. Like, I've always looked up some, watching them play. Like, one day I'm gonna get it. One day I'm gonna get my opportunity, and it knocked on the door. And I was just eager to play. Like, I've never seen them play with a bass drum as a female. It's always been guys. So I'm like, well, they're not really all the way female yet. They need to, squeeze me in the door. So once I got the opportunity, I'm here. And now they stuck. I ain't going nowhere.
Love it. I should point out my daughter plays the bass drum.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Need more of those.
All right, so my musical journey began, I guess you can say, at birth. I have music running through my blood. My grandfather was a trumpet player for a preservation hall, which I never met him. He passed before I was born. I have a few uncles that played music, and my mom is also a cousin to Dave Bartholomew, which is a well-known composer in New Orleans. He wrote a lot of music for Fats Domino, as well as other artists. I first picked up my first instrument at the age of 7, which was violin. And I was also a member of the marching band at St. Mary's Academy when the Pinettes at the time was originated, but I was not an original member. It wasn't until 2007, after the rebuild of the band, which was dismantled by Hurricane Katrina, that my mom actually got word that the band was rebuilding, and she kind of, brought me into the band, I guess you can say. I was a baritone player, but they were looking for a trombone player, which I was like, okay, I'll do it. So that's been since 2007, and I'm still here. Don't plan on going anywhere. I see a lot of good things in our future, and I want to stick around to be a part of it.
I know that's right.
My musical journey also began, you probably could say, at birth. I have a lot of family members that play music. My great grandfather, my dad, uncles, cousins. So it goes, pretty far back. But I probably started blowing a horn maybe age of 3. My dad is a trombone player, Corey Henry. I remember walking around the house blowing his trombone, probably not knowing what I was doing, but anywho. And then I think I started playing with roots of music on clarinet maybe at the age of 10, I want to say, or something like, no, maybe like 12, something like that. I was one of the first kids to start out when the program first started. So that kind of shaped me musically, taught me how to read music, and then I began to teach myself trumpet because clarinet just was boring to me personally. I felt like, I just felt like, we was always at the back of the band. Like, nobody could hear us. It's just so boring. So I wanted to do something else. Again, which I taught myself trumpet. I began playing trumpet for roots of music for a little while until I graduated and went to high school. I also played trumpet in high school. I went to Warren Easton Charter High. I think while I was in high school and also going to the roots of music, the founder, Derek Tabb, he was the drummer for Rebirth Brass Band at the time, asked me, did I hear anything about the Pinettes Brass Band? At the time, I was still young, so I kind of, heard word about them, but, like, not much, you know what I'm saying? So I was like, yeah, I heard about them a little bit. Excuse me, ma'am, I have the mic, thank you. So, yeah, I told him, I heard a little bit about them. So he was like, I really think you should try to get with them. So I was a little hesitant because, again, I was still young. I still had a childhood to live and stuff. So I think I ended up meeting them at St. Mary's Festival. They had a festival at the school, and they performed at the festival. I went to the festival. I introduced myself. I think maybe had a practice after that, and then we continued practicing. I think Carice was my teacher.
Yes, my teacher too.
So Carice was in the band before me, and she kind of taught me all the songs that they was going over and everything at the time. So yeah, I've been in the band since about 14, 15 years old. I'm 29 now. That's probably half of my life. Yeah, and that's where my musical interest comes from.
Yeah, that was our baby, y'all. She's still the baby. She's still the baby.
All right, well, I'm gonna go next because I don't wanna go last. My musical journey started when I was younger. I just used to listen to the radio all the time, and my grandmother had one of those old upright organs in her house, and I would just try to play what I heard on the radio. And my mom and dad were like, that's kind of a gift. So my dad bought me a keyboard, and I just did that all the time. Just used to try to play what I could hear. And then in the 3rd grade, I started playing the xylophone because it was like a keyboard to me. And so I was playing the xylophone, and then I got into the music program at my elementary school where I started playing the violin. And I kind of started playing violin on accident. I was new to the school. This was on the West Coast. I was new to the school, and we used to sit in a group, and everybody in my group just got up and walked to the door one day. And I didn't know if I was supposed to go with them or just sit there by myself. So I followed them. I was like, I don't know where we're going, but they all went, so I'm going. And they went to the music room. And the music teacher was like, do you play an instrument? And I said, no. And he was like, do you want to learn how to play? I said, sure. And he was like, well, which one do you want to play? And I just picked the violin because it was the smallest out of, the orchestral instruments. So that's how I started playing on accident, playing the violin. And then from there, I was born in Portland, Oregon. I moved to Los Angeles, California in middle school. And I was still in the orchestra. My band director said, when you go to high school, if you don't want to take PE, you have to learn how to play a marching band instrument. And so I was like, okay, I'll do that. And so I learned how to play the trumpet going into my 9th grade year. And so I played the trumpet. My senior year, I picked up a mellophone, which is, a marching French horn. And that's what I got a scholarship on going into college, was playing mellophone. So I had stopped playing the trumpet. I was playing mellophone. I met Dion at Jackson State in Mississippi. And after I graduated, I moved to New Orleans. And in 2008, Dion asked me if I wanted to join the all-female brass band, which I'm all for if it's females. But if it's females doing what guys do, that's what I'm for. And so I was like, I went to see them perform one time, and I was just amazed. Even though it wasn't the same people, it was a few different people, just the fact that it was females doing something that only guys were known for doing. I had no clue about brass band or anything like that coming from the West Coast. So I was all about playing what is written on paper. So to play by ear, even though I had done that as a small child, it was just different. It's totally different, and that's where I see a lot of children, in New Orleans, they really learn by ear. And it's very few schools that go back to reading music, especially in elementary school. So that was just one thing that I was just fascinated by, an all-female group of musicians.
Now look at you, stuck.
All right, hey y'all. My musical journey started in church, of course. My grandmother made me go to church every Sunday with her, sing in a choir, and that's how I learned. That was my music start. Now, to get into band, Mardi Gras, I saw St. Mary's Academy marching up the street, and I said, ooh, I want to be in that band. And I kept saying it and kept saying it, and my parents listened, and they put me in that school. And 7th grade, I didn't even bother about going. 8th grade, I went into the band room and I told them I wanted to play the drums. And then I met the drum teacher and I said, no, I don't want to play drums. I want to play the trumpet. And then Mr. Herbert said, no, I got something for you. And he said, you're going to play baritone. I said, well, what's that? He said, you're going to like it, you're going to like it. So I learned it, mastered it, and my section got a little too big. So we had more players than we had instruments. So it was like, I'm going to switch you over to something else. Put me on the tuba. I took that home, and I started learning it. And I learned a lot of stuff by ear. I started listening to a lot of the brass bands back in the day. And Rebirth, Dirty Dozen, Treme. Those were the 3 that I kept listening to. And I started learning their music by ear. And then one day, he heard me playing in the band room. I was just playing a bass line. And he said, where you get that from? I said, well, I was just listening to it at home. And I thought I'd just, he was like, that's good. So next thing I know, he was like, we're going to have a band that's going to play at the spring concert. I ain't want to play. So he had somebody else play. He had already done it the previous years. So I was like, no, I don't want to do that. So he was like, you're going to do it. So ended up playing. And the group that he put together was not the Pinettes, but it was just a group of musicians that we showcased every year for the spring concert. So push forward a few years, 91, we put a band together. Not the members that you see here now, but It was a few of us. We had 16 members. 16. Yeah, and it was a hard way to go. 16 members, 16 girls trying to do something like this. First of all, we all have hard heads. We don't want to listen. We want to do what we want to do. And eventually it dwindled down to about maybe 10. We recorded, let me reverse. The 16 girls, we recorded a tape back then, because that was a long time ago, a cassette tape. And I think it might have been like 4 songs on there. Songs we don't play no more, thank you, Jesus. But yes. Fast forward to now, I've been, Hurricane Katrina displaced me. I ended up in Florida. And I wasn't thinking about coming back to New Orleans. And I had been gone for about 7 years. And I came back for Mardi Gras. And I told Christy that I was coming. And she was like, come meet us at the Maple Leaf. Maple Leaf is a bar that Rebirth play on Tuesdays. Well, I don't know if they do it now, but at that time, we met up, and the band came. And Christy pulled me on the side. She said, you should come back home. And I'm like, nah, I'm good where I'm at. She said, you don't miss it? I'm like, yeah, I do, but I don't know. I just don't want to come. And she was like, we need you. You need to come back home. I said, all right, I'm going to think about it. About, 3 to 6 months I was back home. And I've been home ever since. And when I came back, I had to get on trombone because the tuba player at the time, she was somebody that I taught to play. So, you can't step on people's toes and say, well, I'm coming back playing this. So she played, and, in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, I just want to play this on because I know I could do it better. But you don't want to step on nobody's toes, So you let them do it and you offer pointers and stuff. So eventually I guess she had a moment and she decided she didn't want to play no more. So that was my opportunity. And I took it. And I'm here. And I'm loving it. I took it back. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, don't drop the microphone, though. No. I'm not sure. Ryan probably doesn't want you to do that. So, yeah, that's just fascinating to hear about all your journeys. And I just want to point out that there were some really common threads in a lot of your stories. I heard a lot of mention of being in church choirs. I heard a lot of mention of family members. I think it was your great-grandfather.
Grandfather.
So generations of music in the family, and the ping pong table filled with, records that you're listening to. I also heard a lot about music teachers and people that took a chance on you and said, try it out. You never know what'll happen. So there's some music teachers in the room here, and it's good for everyone to be reminded about that impact you have on a 7 or 8 year old, and you just don't even realize it until you're older. Just to switch gears a little bit, what are some of the challenges that you've encountered? What are some of the barriers that you've encountered? You talked, several people talked about Katrina. I can't believe we're coming up on the 20-year anniversary of that already this August. Beyond Katrina even, what sorts of things stood in your way on your journey, for those that want to answer that?
I think one of the things is that, just listening, and I'll say I enjoyed that segment myself, because sometimes, we don't realize what brought us together. We see the path forward, but we really don't know that history. And one thing I thought was interesting is that just everyone up here is pretty much a multi-instrumentalist. And so I don't think they give themselves as much credit as they should for being versatile and being able to adapt, like Demara's coming back and just getting on a totally different horn, or Deion coming in the band and learning a new horn. So I think it speaks to the character of the women here and how we have all been team players from the beginning, and that's why the band has been able to accelerate the way it has. But back to your question about challenges, I think one of the things that really would not have allowed any one of us to see ourselves in a brass band is because there were none. Mm-hmm. There were no women in brass band. You know, for us coming up, being raised in New Orleans, you see it all the time. You see the culture, and you see, like Jigga said, you know, she was the dancer and like jazz, just going to second lines. You know, you hear the band, but we never saw female instrumentalists. That's why, for me, you know, being in middle school and having that dream, of course, I hadn't heard of these ladies because they didn't do a lot of second lines, you know, as in terms of being on the street. It was to me what I thought was a pipe dream because, for one, I knew female piano players. And just a note to all the music, I heard a lot of people say they started on clarinet. Why do music teachers want to push all the girls coming in the band to be on clarinet? Like, why is that? Like, why is that a thing? You know, and so I think because it's a part of that whole stereotype, right? You know, we put those boundaries in the caps on what young ladies are able to do. And so for a young lady coming in a band, you know, they don't even see themselves being in certain arenas because they don't have a model of it. They don't have an example. And kids learn by model and we learn by seeing. And that's what I think could be the biggest impact of this band as a whole, because we allow ourselves for young ladies to see themselves in us, right? And when they see us, then we give them hope. We give them an opportunity. We give them an ability to dream that they can one day be able to do the same thing. And we don't always want to be the only one. And so, you know, it's challenging stepping out now as not even just being one female, because I grew up with all male musicians. And I remember, you know, I won't name the band, but they wanted me to get in the band, and I was like, oh, what happened? They asked me to come to practice, and then he came back, he said, oh yeah, the band leader said he don't want girls in the band. True story. Somebody in the guy was actually somebody I considered a friend, right? But just to think about the stereotype of, can women do this? Do they have the ability to now be able for us as a unit to break through so many walls, so many barriers, to be an all-female? Because the first thing people say, oh, can y'all really play those horns? I'm thinking like, what kind of question is that? Do you walk up to a male band and ask them, can you play them horns? Like,
Absolutely
you know, that's not a question.
not.
So why is that a question for us? And so we still operate in a space where I feel like we have to prove ourselves. Our presence doesn't mean enough, right? For a male musician, their presence means enough. But for us stepping into a room, it's not until we command the stage and really show folks what we can do that we gain the respect. And I think now, anytime someone sees us perform, we make believers out of everyone.
One of the challenges that I can talk about is the fact that all of us have other jobs, and so just finding the time to practice, at first that was a big challenge for me. By me not being from New Orleans, I really had to, you know, learn the music and practice, but all of us have full-time jobs, and so we're not like the male brass bands where for most of them that's all they do. So they have time to, you know, practice. But all of us, we work during the day, and then we're full-time musicians too. So, and then we're moms, we're wives, you know, we have all these roles. So those are the challenges that I want young ladies to see in us and push through that. And, you know, just know that they can do whatever it is that they want to do.
Okay, anybody else? Those are beautiful answers, by the way. I feel like you really segued perfectly into my last big question, which is what you hope your legacy will be.
One more thing. This the challenges that nobody speak of, like having kids, actually having them, menopause, different things, breast things, and go on. I'm just gonna go a little deeper. Those things, fibroids, you know, things like that you have to deal with as a woman, that we all get together and we might, on a stage, you can't even tell, but we're in pain. You know, we holding the instruments. I mean, she's holding a tuba. Sometimes she can't even stand up. She has the bass drum. Sometimes, you know, it's her back, whatever it is. You know, and we can't sub. I can't call a female and say, hey, can you do, like Natasha said, Veronique has to play my instrument. Or however, you know, it goes, I call her the sixth man off the bitch because she'll play her horn. She'll play the bass drum. She'll play the snare drum. That's a big challenge for us, health issues. You know, after we have kids, we just can't jump on a plane and just go out. We can't just do this. Or, you know, sometimes we have kids and still dealing, our kids are grown. We're still dealing with that effect. And those are the things that people don't talk about or don't know. It's beyond being overlooked, you know, because we want to be looked at as musicians, not females. You know, it's beyond that, like they're trying to do us this and that or judging us. It's those types of things that people don't bring to the forefront or discuss enough to understand that, you know, if we dealing with whatever pain it is, and I have to pull, like one time Natasha couldn't even, there's no other saxophone player I could call. You know, she couldn't even perform. And she had been to the hospital that day, and we just had to do it without her. And those are the things, again, that's, for me, besides life itself, like, but those things, I think, are really overlooked that people don't discuss enough. You know, I remember I went to see a performer, I don't know if y'all remember the rap group called Fugees, and Lauryn Hill was part of that group, and one of the guys told her she couldn't even come out because she had cramps. So they had to like keep pushing the show, and I guess until she was able to come do it, and she came out there and knocked out the park. And when it was over, she ran on the bus, and people were trying to get autographs, and she was like, it's okay, and but you could see it all in her face, like pain. And for me, I was looking on the bus at the time that I couldn't even get the autograph. So I just looked at the pain in her face, knowing the phenomenal show she just put on. Like, wow. Like, man, that's crazy. And you have, you know, women out there dancing, and the body stuff that they have to wear, and underneath the things you have to put under there to look apart, you know, so we don't get talked about. So those are the things, again, it's major challenges that you all would never see when you come to the show. Like, how you doing? You know, you might think we talking to each other, like, hey, you all right? Your stomach all right? Yeah. Or, you know, just go get you some water or whatever it is. Those are major challenges.
Yeah, thank you for answering the question that way. And I completely agree. There's kind of this philosophy of a hidden strength that a lot of women have, and it's okay to not have it be hidden, right? I mean, to talk about it, that you're full on juggling babies and lives and all of it.
Surgery for months.
Yeah.
And they had to, sometimes Veronique had to step back and play. We had to call the guys, you know, to perform. I couldn't stand up. You know, I couldn't be a part of it. I couldn't do much of anything. And that's hard, because I can say this, and I'm not trying to brag, but I don't care what type of band it is. A lot of bands doesn't have chemistry like us. So to try to shift it or to even add somebody back there, it just was so hard. Because Veronique, Natasha, Jazz, they're in the front. They all have a part. Again, if you come to the show, you'll see Jazz is doing her part all over the stage dancing. Natasha playing, singing, Veronique. And then when you have to subtract one of us out of that, it's so hard. You know, it's a lot. So it changed the whole dynamic. It changes the dynamic of the show, and it, like, again, you all won't see it, but you're so used to me being back there, and then it, like, you know, it's a guy, you know, because I try not to put Veronique back there so much, and then the guy, they're like, well, we don't know, you know, and there's certain songs that we play, and again, if you subtract one of us, it's hard to get that good chemistry, that feeling for us to regurgitate it back to you all, so you all can enjoy it. Again, you may not know, but major challenge.
Yeah, I feel like you're, again, kind of segueing into my my last big question I wanted to ask, which is what you hope your legacy is. And you've already touched on so many things, but just presenting such an incredible sisterhood example and lifting each other up and supporting each other and give and take and honesty. I mean, those are incredible examples for especially young women that feel that they have to be a certain way, right? They have access to this handheld computer 24/7 that's sending a lot of unhealthy messages. So, you know, that in and of itself, just in this brief conversation, I think has been very powerful for me. to hear from all of you. But does anybody want to add to that? I mean, what you hope the legacy of the original Pinettes is years from now, even after you're gone? And then we're going to open up for some Q&A.
I really hope that young women see themselves in us, and that, I mean, growing up, again, I didn't see any female trumpet players or any female brass band members, but now that's not true, and I hope young women get to see that. Personally, I have the opportunity to be a music instructor at the Roots of Music, where jazz started, and I get chills sometimes, like when the kids come in like, we saw you on the Super Bowl, or like, do you like Nerds? And I'm like, why are you asking me that? Oh, because I was on a Nerds commercial. Like, but they see that and they know, like, okay, Miss V could do it, so I could do it, and I push them to know that. Like, even the young girls, like, yeah, if you're good on saxophone and you're good on clarinet, do it. But if you want to play trumpet, play it. Like, I'm begging for a female tuba player. I won't want to come, because I want them to know, like, there's no limitations to what you can do. And if we can be the example, knowing that like 30, 40 years later, there should be another Pinette or multiple Pinette brass bands.
To add to that, I would say that the Pinettes legacy has already started. For me, I think they started like in '91, so it's been over 30 years. So they're just an inspiration to others. Like for me, growing up, like I say, just seeing them and watching them playing. So the legacy for them for us has already started. So we just got to continue to do what we do.
For me, I feel like I want to encourage young girls to play instruments, and I think the start of that for us was when we did the mentoring session at the Class Got Brass. When we did that, I just want us to start doing that a little bit more so we can have some kids come up behind us, because we are getting up there in age. And I'm not saying I'm quitting anytime soon, but when it's time, I want somebody else to be there to take over. Yeah.
All right, wonderful. We're going to open up the floor for some questions. Jen has a mic. You can ask them anything. Sarah's got something in the front. And we are going to use microphones just because this is being televised.
Thank you all for all that you've shared already this afternoon. It really is, you're an inspiration to not just young girls, but folks like me as well. So know you're appreciated.
Thank you.
My question, especially since several of you have mentioned programs like Roots of Music, you've also mentioned being interested in collaborating more. Just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about all the really exciting kinds of youth music programs that are happening in New Orleans right now, certainly around the tradition of jazz, but even more broadly.
Along with Roots of Music, my dad is, he's also teaching at it was called St. Mark's Community Center, but it's now changed to Rampart Community Center, I believe. But he's been like wanting to like start a program where the kids come in, and they learn all different type of things. But like since then, he's built like a studio over there. They did like a fundraiser called Legends and Learners, so where they showcase like what the kids have learned. We just did a festival last Saturday that also showcased some kids at the camp, and what they played, what they learned, and just how they're progressing since they first started. A lot of kids don't really have like music programs in New Orleans. I mean, some schools might still have some, but it's not really like in depth like per se the Roots of Music. They really go in depth and teach you how to read music, and the technical side of playing music. So majority of the kids really, they start out like on their own. They just pick up instruments, and like we all said, they learn by ear. So it's not like a lot of them go to music programs or attend, music schools or anything like that. Like that's something that they chose to do, that they see that they like to do, and they try to learn it on their own. Now, if they have a mentor or if they, happen to get into a program like St. Mark's or Roots Music or maybe a school program, then, they tend to run with it. But we don't really have like a bunch of music programs in the city for kids to go and learn. You know what I'm saying? If that makes any sense.
I want just to add to that, and just to shout out a few other programs. We have the girls play trumpet too.
Save our breath.
Yes, it's Trombone Shorty Foundation, which is another big program, and so I think with those kids, and as well as with the Roots of Music, I came through the Jazz and Heritage School, the Heritage School of Music, and I was a part of that program when it first started out in 1995, and so that was how I came into contact with Kid Jordan and some of the legends and greats in New Orleans. So there are a lot of programs. What I will say one barrier is the funding. And we cannot underscore the impact of something like a Hurricane Katrina, which makes a generational change. Something like that is like, so now, here it is 20 years later, now we're getting back to maybe normalcy, somewhat, right? Because prior to Katrina, there was in-depth music programs in all of the schools. All of the schools. I will say that there were some old school band directors who actually taught music, showed kids how to read. So you didn't always have to be in one of these specialty programs. It was in all of the schools. And now we look at what's going on from a governmental perspective when it comes to funding. That's why it's so important for us to sound the alarm. We need these arts programs funded. Because it's crucial to turning out productive people in society a lot of the times. And if you look at some of those studies, people who study the arts go on to do great things because it's shaping a part of the mind. It helps with growth. It helps with development. It helps with discipline. In order to be a musician, you have to be disciplined, and so music has saved in New Orleans so many lives. In a town that can be written with poverty, you look at the effects of poverty, sometimes it's criminality. Well, how do you battle the criminality is about giving them an opportunity, and so that's why you see a lot of folks that's why the street music was born. They were doing it out of a chance to make music, to make money for their families. And so I would say make sure that we're funding these programs because we want to see more. We start to see some come back, but I would say that funding is probably one of the biggest challenges to really getting these programs off the ground. And even for the ones existing, I know that they have to do a whole lot of fundraising to keep these programs going.
Fund the music programs, yes, please. I'm just gonna ditto fund the music programs, please, please.
Also just mentioned volunteering. I saw that Girls Rock Iowa City is still looking for volunteers for anyone in the room that's interested in that.
Girls Rock Iowa City. All right, thank you so much. It's such an inspiration, every one of your stories and the legacy of your project and thank you for coming to Iowa. We really need your leadership. We need your musicianship. So thank you. I have a two-part question. Just curious if there are any creative collaborations that any of you are involved in addition to this that you're super excited about, you'd like to talk about, maybe something including brass band music or another musical style, or maybe even another arts type collaboration, anything you're excited about. And one of you mentioned that at one point there were 20 people in this group and there was a lot of tension, and so it shifted to a smaller number. So I'm just curious, what are some of your more productive ways of dealing with conflict, if you wish to go there?
Well, creatively, like I said, I work with the Roots of Music. A fun fact, the kids are kind of sad. They are playing for the Country Music Awards this weekend, and I am not there, and they were very upset. I was like, look, I got to do my music. Y'all got to do y'all music. But also, I played with one of the premier Black Catholic churches in the city at St. Peter Claver, and it's really fun to play with my mom, who's the musical director. So we are praying we will need funding. We'll be doing a live recording this year, so it's kind of excited about that.
Yeah, I would. That is a great question. I would say creatively, I take it as it comes. You know, I love being able to go back and do some straight ahead jazz. So I just did a session about 2 weeks ago. It was like a showcase of generations that came through the Heritage School of Music as well as the New Orleans Center for Creative Arts, because NOCA is celebrating an anniversary this year. NOCA is an actual academic program that it's a specialty art school where you go to your normal school, your traditional school for half day, and you go to NOCA for half day where you do intense musical training. So it's almost a conservatory for high school kids. And so we just celebrated that. I play a lot of different music, but I think the thing that I'm most excited about is the creative. We need to get this album out for the Pinettes, so working on this album. So for me, personally, I am excited about the collaborations that we have. You know, I won't divulge everything, but there are some great opportunities on the table for us. I think what's interesting about this band is that even though it's brass band style, we play all different types of music. We cross all different genres. You know, listen to Christy talking about, she thought she was a part of Pearl Jam and all of these things. She brings so much of that eclectic music style. And,
she was singing it to us last night on the way
these
here.
ideas and the songs that she brings, she's like the mastermind behind a lot of the musical repertoire that we have. And she gives it to me, and then she challenges me to take it and flip it and adapt it and Pinetterize it. And just made up a word, Pinetterize.
Glad you recorded that.
Well, for me, I'm also a part of another brass band in Dallas, Texas. So, I mean, all male, by the way. And I'm the only female, which is a headache. But that's neither here nor there. But we're actually in a studio, trying to put an album together as well. So that's basically all I have going on.
I don't have anything going on, guys.
She did.
The conflict. We're not afraid to answer anything, but I'll ask you: will you be ready for our response to your questions? Honestly, and I'm not kidding. We don't have much conflict. It's different from male bands and female bands. I tell you, because the guys even say, again, y'all get along like this? Those guys are about to fight each other. They fight each other. Sometimes they don't show up for gigs. They don't communicate. They show up, they book an 8-piece band and showing up with 5 members. We don't have that. And I think it starts with communication. And if I communicate to them, you know, that's all they ask is for me to communicate things to them in a timely manner, and that's what I do unless something just comes last minute. And I tell them, we do text message. If not, we have meetings at rehearsal. I'm very detailed. This is that, what y'all want to do, what's whatever, you know. We don't really have much conflict, and I'm just being so honest. I mean, I think you can ask.
Well, we have a little conflict.
Yeah, it's not much, because we, like they say, leave it on the court. That's exactly what we do.
I will say when it's done with respect. I think
it's
respect,
not much, though.
Respect is the key. And so I think you can have disagreements, you can have dissension, but you do it within respect where you can come back from it.
Yeah,
you know, and so that's why when we do have, because we do get into spat. Sometimes it's over, especially her and I, over the music. Yeah,
it's mainly over the topic of music. You know, it's nothing like. It's not like I'm gonna see her tomorrow and still be mad, or next month and still be mad. I think it's just like healthy arguments. You know, like sometimes we just both strong about our opinions. And then when you got 2 people that's doing the music, sometimes she might say yeah, I might say no, I might say go, she says stop, blue, green. You know, and they just sit up there like the kids. And they just sit up there like, okay. You know, whatever. And then we get together, like I said, and we figure it out, and then it's done. You know, but it's mainly about the music, or, you know, The only conflict, major conflict is scheduling. Like Carice said earlier, because like I said, the other things, we can fix that. But I can't, if Jazz has to work, or if Damaris is working, or Dion's out of town, or Veronique's at the Roots of Music, Jigga's out of town, Natasha's dealing with other bands, that's hard. That's really, really hard. But I'm not gonna lie, these individuals, they'll try. They'll find a way. I can't come for the whole such and such, but I'll be there for 30 minutes. Or I can't come for this one. You know, that's why I say I don't want to even look at it like major conflicts, because they will make a way. Like I tell you, getting here, the flight, all our flights, actually it was one flight, our flight too, in Jigga's, because Jigga lives in Dallas. So when I book it, it's a lot. You know, because I'm trying to match up time, and then we work. So I'm trying to get the schedule, what time how late you can get off, and what's this and whatever. Well, as we were boarding the flight, Natasha misses her flight. So it just was so crazy, because now all the rules has changed. You can't just check your bag in. You have to do it 45 minutes, an hour before your flight departs. That was a hassle. I was trying to calm Tasha down. Jigga text, my flight is delayed. I'm like, okay, let me try to figure this out, because I'm not a pilot. I don't know how to figure it out. So Natasha was just, I could feel her. She's always calm, but I could feel it. I'm like, what you doing now? I'm just sitting in the parking lot. Just sit there. I'm on my phone trying to figure it out. Well, I have to get there. She wasn't going to get it till almost 5 o'clock today. Today. So she would have not made this. And I was like, just wait, give me a minute. So I'm trying to do this, trying to whatever. I'm like, get out of the car, go to the counter, just go get the ticket. Whatever. She's here. Our flight get delayed because her flight has delayed again. So we land, and she's still not there. So I'm like, listen, we're boarding now. She's like, we on a plane. I'm on a plane, can't make it. I was like, this is crazy. So we ended up getting here 1 o'clock or something, you know. So it was a lot.
I had to run through the airport.
I'm sure y'all both did. So a lot of times that's another challenge that we don't have control over. But those types of things, again, because Natasha was late because one of her workers had her late. You know, that's another thing. You have
even though I'm notoriously late now, but this time I was out.
That's why the whole band was like, "Well, it's Tasha."
Oh yeah, it was.
But then I was like, when I did this, they was like, "What? No, what?" But I was trying to figure it out for her to get here, because I was trying to remain calm, but I was trying to have her calm too, because she is notorious for being late. But this time she was like, "It wasn't me this time. It really wasn't me." And so yeah.
And I would say shout out to Christy, because she is also the functioning manager of the band, not just the band leader, but actual business manager. And so on top of just music and chorale and all of these ladies together and setting schedules and getting us together for rehearsals, that coordination that you just heard us speak about, we have to do all of those things ourselves. So from booking to on-site, you know, being meeting with the tech engineers and making sure everything is ready on stage, and all of the conversations that have to happen before you even see a performance. You know, she's handling all that, as well as being a parent, as well as having a full-time job. And so just shout out to her, because she did make it happen yesterday, because they rebooked me. I was just like, at that point, I was just so aggravated.
I guess I'll be there at 5. I was like, no.
You know, I was just gonna have to be back at 6 o'clock in the morning. She was like, wait, just let me see. Let's see if they have another flight on another airline. Now here I am running back from the car through the park and
like
back
five.
into the
She
airport.
had 5 minutes.
I had 5 minutes to book this flight before they cut it off, you know, and then once I got in the back, I was like, oh, I made it on the plane.
I was like, I'm not letting you off this phone until I know you're in the back. You need to pass security. I need to know.
I'm also in an all-women band, but I only have to wrangle 4 other women, so I'm impressed. And I just want to I have a little comment just about the identifying with the joy of being in an intergenerational project of women, and the way it strengthens every part of your life. It strengthens your parenthood, your relationship with your family, with your community. and with your music. And so I see you, and I just want to say that I was really touched by what you all were talking about in terms of your sisterhood, because I know what that's all about. I've been in my project for 20 years, and I can't imagine what my life would have been without that sisterhood of those ladies. And so I also just wanted to say in terms of your legacy, it being in motion, your legacy is now, and it is the future. And you had so many valuable things to say as musical teachers and then students of your own craft. When I think about your legacy, I'm like, oh, but I wrote it down. I said, oh, the Pinettes School of Brass, like, man, you could have a video series where you're just dropping knowledge bombs on people, and maybe you already do. But there's so much value to your lived experience as musicians, and as women musicians, and so I just want to tell you thank you for, because I know what it's like to have to fight your way through and get on that stage as a mom, as a person with a full-time job. And so thank you for coming to Iowa City. I don't have a question. I just want to tell you thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yes, thank you so much for that feedback. Yeah.
Any other questions?
At the top up here. Go, Jen, go. Go, Jen, go.
Oh, you're going to meet me halfway. Okay.
He's coming.
Boom.
So I repair the wind instruments here at the university. So everything I'm always interested in is keeping instruments working. And I'm wondering, as horn players and as traveling musicians, do you have tricks or techniques or routines that you do to keep your horns playing? Do you bring backups, or do you hope for the best?
I do want to say we do use kind of the same person to repair our horns. This guy named Tom, he does great with repairing horns and things like that, instruments and things like that. But I mean, it's up to you to keep your instrument in working condition. And so I know I just hope that it doesn't conk out in the middle of a gig or anything like that, because I don't have a backup instrument. Yeah.
I'll say this, I have the biggest horn and the hardest one to get repaired if something happens on the road. I just pray that the airline does not damage my horn. That's it. All brass, yes.
Yeah, I think.
So she plays, sound like a brass.
I was about to say with that, we are at the mercy, and I think that's true for all traveling musicians. Like if you're taking flights, just because of the, bag restrictions, you cannot really travel with multiple instruments. And so at that point, you are at the mercy of the airline with your instrument, which is why I always carry mine on. I do not let them check my instrument. I've even had the stewardess put it in one of their closets up in the front when we didn't have any overhead space, because like sometimes I was nervous yesterday because we came in on one of the smaller regional planes, and sometimes the overhead space is smaller on those. But yeah, so that is my trick. Don't let the airline touch it. That's the way to protect it. I've had a friend, he has like this customized big bow that he has, and it's like a $20,000 custom one-of-a-kind instrument, and the airline messed it up. So yeah, that is my advice. If you're a traveling musician, don't let the airline touch it, if at all possible. But in the case of like sousaphone, yep, at the mercy of them, yep. But yeah. Maybe we need to add that to our arsenal, horn repair. We need somebody on the squad that can repair horn. We have to add that.
Yeah, I was going to ask if it has to be a female then. Yeah, you'd have to recruit.
When I said that, I meant one of us, so that if something happens while we're gone, one of us will be able to fix the horn. We will have to get that in the team. We learn how to do everything else. We learn how to be, media people. We learn how to be, managers. Tech, yeah. We learn how to be sound. We do production. We do a little bit of everything. So we're gonna have to add that to the bag.
Anybody else?
got time for one more question if anybody's got something on their mind. Okay, well, again, housekeeping. If you wouldn't mind filling out your survey and just dropping it on one of those chairs over there. And we'll see you all at 8 o'clock tonight. Bring your friends. Please join me in thanking our guests, the original Pinettes.
Make sure y'all follow all of our social media pages, Original Pinettes, and also go to originalpinettes.com and become one of our subscribers to our page so that you can get all of the latest news, the latest and greatest.
Will do. Thank you.
New music coming your way.